Our society, our teachings, our education doesn't set parents up for success in that way, nor do they set our relationships up for success. Most parents struggle to continue to feel connected and close after having kids. And we know that from the research that 2 out of 3 couples will experience a significant decline in their satisfaction in their relationship after having a baby. And many of those couples that will change in the first year without intervention. Some it will change after the 3rd year, and then others really stay stuck in that.
Welcome to the Fresh Start Family Show. I'm your host, Wendy Snyder, powerful parenting educator and family life coach. And together we are going on a journey to help you expand your heart, learn new tools, and strengthen your family so you can build the family legacy of your dreams. I'm a mama too turned child and family advocate who went from being extremely stressed out back when my strong-willed little girl was a toddler to now thriving as a parent and having the honor to support thousands of families each year who choose to go from frazzled and impatient to peaceful and empowered. Each week, we will dive in with experts, thought leaders, authors, and advocates with insights to help you thrive in your parenting walk, as well as in your marriage and even in your career and faith walk too. Together, sometimes alone, sometimes with my better half and co-host Terry, we'll explore the triumphs and trials we all face as parents and share practical tools to fill our hearts, minds, and souls with inspiration. Take a deep breath and get ready to be poured into with some fresh start inspiration. Let's do this. Well, hello there, families, and welcome back to a new episode. I'm so happy you're here. Today on the show, we have Dr. Tracy Dalgleish, who is a psychologist and couples therapist, and she's here to talk to us about how we can reclaim our romance and strengthen our partnerships, which will strengthen our parenting. So I wanted to bring this episode to you because we are just about to embark on Thanksgiving here in America. I think Canadians have Thanksgiving, Canada too. Dr. Tracy is actually from Canada, but it is a time where we slow down and practice gratitude. And I think that the conversation that we're having today about the gratitude that we can bring in for our spouses and our partners and really do so much to strengthen our relationships on that front is an important one to have during this Thanksgiving season, because I think it can get easy to put our relationships past on the back burner, so to speak. Terry and I have been together now for 30 years this year. We've been married for 22, together for, I think this will be our 30th year in 2025. And it can get easy to fall into a roommate rut, right? And so Dr. Tracy has the most incredible ideas on how to strengthen our relationship and get out of that roommate rut. And I think a lot of it comes down to remembering to show gratitude. And we'll talk about that in this episode. But Dr. Tracy is just a wealth of information. And for nearly 2 decades, she has been providing direct clinical services as well as researching, writing, and speaking about relationships. So just so you know who you're going to hear from, she has made her clinical knowledge and research accessible to people of all kinds across the world through her contributions to popular media sites, including Times, Forbes, and Motherly. That's a publication that I have loved contributing to in the past too. She is also the host of the podcast, I'm Not Your Shrink, and author of her debut book, I Didn't Sign Up for This. A couples therapist shares real life stories of breaking patterns and finding joy in relationships, including her own. And she's got an incredible Instagram portfolio where you can go over and just get quick tips and inspiration on how to pour into your relationship. But I think it's just a wonderful place to put our eyeballs this Thanksgiving season is on our relationship with our partners. And this is where those beautiful, wild, and wonderful human souls came from. So the more we can pour into strengthening our relationships, I believe it pours into strengthening your parenting, because when you feel like a connected team with your spouse or your partner, you will feel more capable and empowered to handle the highs and lows of parenthood. So, without further ado, please help me welcome Dr. Tracy to the show and enjoy this episode. As always, please share it if you enjoy it. Share it with friends. Share it on social media. Make sure you tag me. I'm at Fresh Start Wendy, and we're just so grateful for each and every one of you who are loyal listeners and now watchers on YouTube of the Fresh Start Family Show. Well, hey there, families. Welcome to a new episode of the Fresh Start Family Show. I am thrilled to be here today with Dr. Tracy Dalgleish, and we are going to be talking all about how we can really kind of reclaim our romance in our partnerships, how we can strengthen our partnerships and our parenting, and how it all is so interconnected if we want to be able to parent in a way that is really strong and impactful. So welcome to the show, Dr. Tracy. We're so happy to have you here.
Thank you, Wendy. I'm so thrilled to be sitting with you and also to be brought into your community. It's such a gift to be able to be in this role and also to know all of the people that you're reaching and supporting.
Oh, well, I am kind of like fangirling right now in a big way because I love your work. You have such a beautiful knack for being able to inspire and drop little nuggets of very impactful information when it comes to strengthening relationships, especially over on Instagram, which is where I found you. And your perspective and the work you do is just absolutely beautiful. So it really is an honor to have you here. And the reason why I wanted to have you on the show is because I think when it comes to parenting, and especially the parents we support, which are often doing kind of a 180 in their parenting walk. So they might come into parenting thinking that they're just, it's going to be kind of not that hard, right? You just put a kid in timeout if you need to show them who's boss, and if they need some punishment here and there, and then they get handed a beautiful, strong-willed child. And then they realize all the autocratic BS overpowering tactics don't work well to influence strong-willed kids, and living in a constant state of having to intimidate small human souls is exhausting and it will wreck your marriage. And then on top of that, not being on the same page when it comes to compassionate discipline or how to make this said little strong-willed child get in the car or put on their shoes. We just see marriages get into a place, or partnerships get into a place where it gets really rocky. And then all of a sudden, not only are you kind of arguing about things or not seeing eye to eye, but many of couples that we help in our programs, they've been together for a long time. Like Terry and I have been together. This was our 30th Valentine's Day, married 22 years. And over time, it can just be so easy to fall into this like rut of almost roommate like existence, and then disconnection builds, and then it's harder and harder to get on the same page. So when I first found your work, Dr. Tracy, I was just like thrilled to have you come on, talk about relationships, how we can strengthen them, and really how it goes hand in hand with feeling very empowered and confident to work as a team as parents. So, but before we get going on our topic, will you tell us just a little bit more about you and your story and how you got to where you are today and why you're so passionate about what you teach and how you help couples?
Yes, of course. And let's just even anchor into the idea of not being on the same page. And that would definitely describe our own journey, my journey into parenthood, where, like most people who show up into my office, who are part of my community, we didn't talk about what kind of parents are we going to be? What roles are we going to play when it comes to navigating the mental load? How do we want to manage big feelings with our kids? Like most people, despite me being a couples therapist, we didn't have those conversations, right? Our society, our teachings, our education doesn't set parents up for success in that way, nor do they set our relationships up for success. Most parents struggle to continue to feel connected and close after having kids. And we know that from the research that 2 out of 3 couples will experience a significant decline in their satisfaction in their relationship after having a baby. And many of those couples, that will change in the first year without intervention. Some it will change after the 3rd year, and then others really stay stuck in that. So I'm a psychologist and couples therapist up in Ottawa, Canada, and I have 2 young children. And I used to say that getting my PhD was the hardest thing that I would ever do until I became a parent. And that was also the underpinnings of writing my book. I didn't sign up for this because here I was also saying the very same things my clients were saying. I didn't sign up for this. I didn't sign up to be the she-fault parent. I didn't sign up to have this weight of resentment towards my husband or to feel like we're roommates. It is incredibly difficult. And so while in my office, I show up as the therapist, as a couples therapist, I show up in my online community as also human because I've been a human a lot longer than I've been a therapist. Yes. And I can go home and feel all the same things that my clients do. Yes. And I think it's, Wendy, I think something that we're really shifting into today is removing the veil that experts have it all figured out and that we all have this common humanity of we don't get out of this hard stuff. So in the depths of the Canadian winter, after my second was born, I said to myself, I'm dissatisfied with how relationships are being talked about in the general media. Instagram was taking off, and I was one of the earlier therapists on Instagram, starting to share more about motherhood and relationships. And my value was just to continue to reach more people outside of my office, because I know as parents to young children, the last thing you have is time to necessarily get to couples therapy, or maybe your partner's not interested, or the financial piece is not there. And I just really wanted more people to have the skills and tools that I teach every single day and to make it more accessible. So that's part of my work. I'm still a clinician here in Ottawa. I own my own mental health clinic. I do supervisions with other clinicians. I'm a mom. I'm a wife. I have a dog that bosses me around.
And you're an author and a podcaster, right?
And an author and a podcaster. Those 2 things. Gosh, yes. My book came out last year. You can get it anywhere you get books. And it's just been a joy to see how people needed to hear the everyday stories of what it means to be in relation with another person. And so in the book, I take you through different couples in my therapy room who all ended up saying the same thing. I didn't sign up for this. And throughout the book, I teach them how to build interdependence, which ultimately is what I'm trying to do in all of my communities online.
Oh, amazing. And yeah, you talk about building all that, and then children, and then entrepreneurship, I'm sure is in your bucket, right? Of like, I don't know if you agree, but parenting turned out for me once my kids were toddlers, especially my strong-willed one, like, holy smokes, hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And then entrepreneurship is like my new baby that I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so intense. Like building all, like everything you mentioned, putting that all under the umbrella of Dr. Tracy Dalgleish. It's just like a lot.
And I think we don't necessarily talk about the a lot part. And so I know many people come to me and say, wow, you're doing all these things. How do you do it all? I don't do it all. I'm not there doing school pickup every day. And that's something that I've accepted, that in order for me to write the book, I wasn't able to do the pickup and drop off every single day. My husband is also in business with me. So I'm not doing this all on my own, right? You need a team. And also then we have to work on our marriage in terms of, do you really need to talk about business at 9:30 at night? Or can we box this up and we'll come back to it at our meeting? But, all of those things. So I do want listeners to know that when you see people doing this stuff, it's not just easy and happening overnight. I like to remind people I started my website in 2018 and I started the podcast in 2019, and then I did my membership space in 2020. And, we grow and evolve and stretch over time. It takes time.
Yes. And how cool to hear that your husband is now in that with you. What a beautiful beautiful thing. So amazing. All right. Well, very cool. And how old are your kids now, Tracy?
Yep, they're 9 and 6. Well, 8 and 6.
Nice. I know
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you have to think about that, right? You're like,
I
are
know.
they?
I know. Yes. And
Nine
one
and
of my
six.
kids is a deep feeler, a highly sensitive
Mhm.
one. And so, one of the things I also talk about with people in my community is just how difficult it is to parent two different children, where
Yeah.
with the one, it works. The traditional strategies are great and we're moving forward. And then the other one, it's a complete mindset shift. And of course, me being therapist, I go into the feelings. Wow, that must be
Yeah.
really hard. Tell me how you're feeling. Runs down the hall, slams the door. And so what
Yeah.
works for one doesn't work for the other. And that alone can also be a stressor on our marriage.
It really can, right? I think I saw, did you have my friend Mary Van Geffen on the show? Is that
Mm-hmm.
you? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So it sounds like that big feeler you identify, like it's they're in that camp, right? Like
Yeah.
I in our work, I have a tendency to specialize in helping families with strong-willed kids because it's like they're the ones that usually bring us to our knees. They're the ones who cause us to usually say, oh,
Yeah.
I'm willing to get support. Like I'm willing to
Mm-hmm.
step into the land of healing. And they're like these little angels that don't present as angels necessarily like in the physical realm, but they really do call so many people into like deeper healing and letting go of our egos and our prides and all the things. But I get you on that because my oldest, who's 16, is my strong-willed powerhouse, beautiful little girl who I found this work when she was 3. And just, I would never be a teacher without her.
Of
And then
course.
my little guy is more just the easygoing. Like, I was cracking up this last weekend. We were in Big Bear skiing, and whether it's like the music we're listening to or just like what lift we're going to go on, it's like, about 3 times I can be like, come on, like he'll say no. And then I'll say, well, we could do that, come on, it'll be fun. And then maybe twice. And then the third time he's like, okay, fine. Stella is like, no, it is holding the ground. Like in order to really meet in the middle or get her to go turn the music to a different one or go on a different lift, like you are in intense. Like it's just so interesting how different they are. So, and it's kind of fun sometimes too, because you get to see like, oh, this is really just a lot of natural design within them is perfect, but it's just so different.
Mm-hmm.
So very cool. All right. Well, when it comes to romance with our partners and strengthening our partnership, which again, I see so much with my students, the stronger their partnership is, the more intimately connected and just able to communicate and be present with each other, the stronger they are, the easier the parenting is. Not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily in the realm of like things are going to be perfect with your kid or compassionate discipline when you're shifting out of punishment is going to be easy peasy, but just more able to move through the uncomfortable moments and experience like radical positive change in homes, which again, a lot of our parents are doing this shift. We have a lot of parents come from like religious trauma backgrounds where they were taught in their religion to like literally hurt and harm their children, and that was
Right.
godly. And then they learn this different way and they're just like, wow, to change into from an autocratic parenting model into a firm and kind connection-based relationship-based model is just intense. And when you can be
Mm-hmm.
really united as a team, it's just, and the reality is a lot of people aren't. So, but what I see is like I've been together with my husband now. So we just celebrated our 30th Valentine's Day and been together 22 years. And when I first found you, Tracy, you had shared something around how easy it is to fall into like almost like a roommate type relationship where you're just going through the motions, which there are a lot when you are a parent and you have just all these things, right, happening. And you just fall into these motions and like roommate life. And so we're going to kind of talk today about how to get out of that. And you have some key points that will help us. But number one, you had shared when I found you was implement daily rituals, and tell us what this means and how this can help us get like back to this connected state as parents, as partners.
Yeah. So, Wendy, let's even back up and talk about why does the roommate season take over? And
Mm.
so many people resonated with this. I run a challenge where it's 10 days. I know 10 days is not enough to fix it, but it's enough to get you into a momentum to make a shift. And it's powerful. It's so neat to hear people say, wow, I made this small shift and I felt closer afterwards. And so
Nice.
the roommate feeling is transactions have taken over your relationship, which we know that parents on average spend less than 30 minutes a week talking about deeper issues. Most of the time, it's transactions. And so we lose then that deepening of our emotional connection. So when we lose the deepening of our emotional connection, what goes with that? Well, we also lose the physical connection and the sexual connection.
Yeah.
And so then we become two ships passing in the night. Or the other image I really like is one parent feels like they're driving the ship all on their own and they feel alone. The other partner is on board, but they're down below deck. And so it's like, I'm doing this all on my own. Where are you? Am I even with you? Or do you want to be in this with me? And a
Yeah.
lot of this comes down to those core attachment needs of, do I matter to you? Am I important? Am I adequate? Am I enough for you? And so when we stop being able to meet those needs, we get stuck in those negative cycles. And then that wedge between us just starts to grow. And a common thing that shows up with people is because our children at one point are so dependent, they need so much from us. And we stop then giving the little pieces into our relationship.
So I know you're starting to think about what you're going to get your kiddos for holiday gifts already. So I wanted to chat with you about one of my favorite toys for young kids, the Tony Box, which is just the coolest imagination building screen-free audio system that uses figures to play stories, songs, and more. Discover imagination and active play for kids. It's everything a young explorer's growing mind needs. Designed for little listeners ages 3 plus, the Tony Box is a learning device that helps children with speech, language, and development, and starts them on a path towards literacy. It's designed for young children to operate independently and through tactile play rather than staring at a screen. I mean, hallelujah to that. Tony boxes are soft enough to snuggle, tough enough to handle hands-on kids, great for on the go with 7 hours of battery life, and very simple to set up. Plus, they include headphones for quiet mode. So I want you to head to tonys.com, or we also have a page dedicated to Tonys because we love them so much, freshstartfamilyonline.com/Tonys to learn more. And be sure you're following me on Instagram. I'm at Fresh Start Wendy, where together with Tonys, we'll be giving away 2 Tony starter kits during the month of November. Just be sure to look for the post labeled Tonys giveaway.
And one of the mistakes we think is in order to get out of this stuck place that we are, we need some big grand gesture. Oh, we can't go for the date night, can't get the babysitter, we don't have the village, we can't take a week away. And so we get stuck in that all or nothing thinking. And instead, what I
Wow.
encourage people to do is to go back and ask yourself, what were those things that you did in the early stages of your relationship that brought you together? And those are those rituals. Those are those small things frequently. I bet you greeted each other in the morning. So many
Mm.
people go to their phones when they first wake up. Oh, turn the alarm off, pick up the phone, and then we start to scroll. Well, at that point, you have just allowed the entire worlds of stuff to come into your mind rather than the person beside you. And that's something so small and simple that we can do. Another ritual, did you pour your partner coffee? Did you greet them at the door? There are all of these beautiful things that you had in place that it's about asking yourself, how can we go back to those and start bringing them back into our relationship?
Oh, so good. I have a feeling as we talk about all these, uh-oh, I do that. I do that. I do that. Oh,
And that's
yeah.
the thing, Wendy, too, is, we do. And that's one of the things I love about the little snippets I share on Instagram is they're just these small little windows into the bigger picture of what I teach people. And when we can
Yes.
see that small little window and be open to it, what did I talk about yesterday? I talked about initiations. And that's a hard one because people will say, well, why do I have to initiate all the time? And if they're not
Yeah.
initiating hugs and comfort and coming close to me, do they even love me? And breaking that open, I think, can be really helpful, but also appreciating we're all human. We all get stuck at times. And it is really, this is one of the easiest things. Our relationships feel safe and solid. And so we slide away from each other a little bit. And it's just that remembering that each day you have a choice. And the choice is to grow your tree branches together. That's what you need to choose every single day. And it doesn't have to be some grand gesture and some big date night. It's that when my partner says, I told this story recently, I love this one. When your partner says something silly or mundane about the day, do you go, oh, yeah, that's nice, and you look away? Or do you say, tell me more about that? What's going on for you right now?
I saw that reel you did. I was like, yes, I need to do that more. And I'm laughing thinking about it too. My own relationship is because I always have this thought of how funny it is how when you were first dating, so I think back to 1994 was when Terry and I first started dating, but like how and we moved to California together in 1995, literally across country from Maryland, became roommates at that time, like fell madly in love, deep, fast. It was incredible, very young. And but I just remember like how in the morning you were never like concerned with how you look or your breath. Like it was just never a thing. And then as you go along, you get like more and more like, and my husband is the type who like loves hugs. He like loves to slow down and connect. And I think I might have seen you post something too about how you'll watch your husband sometimes just like make breakfast and eat an egg, and then you're like doing 10,000 things at once. And I'm like, oh gosh, that's so me. But I'm like that would serve us so well and be so connecting to just stop and hug him first thing in the morning. But I'm like thinking about my thoughts of like, oh my gosh, I look crazy. I need to brush my hair. And I'm like thinking now, no, I don't. It's like
No.
they don't care. It's the connection that they are looking for. And I know that was just one of your points, but it just got me to thinking of sometimes it's a little bit of the silly things you have to walk yourself off the ledge, right? Of like, we develop these thought patterns that it matters so much, but like really it doesn't, like a hug when your hair is in the crazy bun and coming out the sides is fine. No one's looking like it, and even if they were, it doesn't matter, right?
And let me even add to that, because I know what a busy parent will say. A hug? I don't have time for a hug. I have 100 things on my to-do list. I need to get going. There's no time for hug. But if we understood that hug is actually a way of grounding ourselves and centering into connection, a 30-second hug releases oxytocin. A 6-second kiss releases oxytocin. That chemical in our brain is a bonding, feel-good hormone. That's the same hormone that's released when we're feeding baby. We need that with our partner. And when we can experience that with them, we feel more grounded and calm and connected. When we feel secure and close with our partners, we are more resilient to the stressors in our everyday life.
Amen. Yes. So it's like where the science meets the resistance. Like you're like, let's look at the science. Like this is, so many parents are like, why am I so stressed out? And why is my nervous system so rattled? And why does misbehavior get me so fired up? And it's like, well, here's one way, just one way that we can really settle ourselves first thing in the morning to set the tone for the rest of the day. So boom, I'm on it. Okay. Number 2, let's talk about limiting phone time, which holy smokes, Dr. Tracy, I am watching the world develop right now. And I'm like, what is happening to us? What is happening? And our kids, like I have 2 teenagers now, and we hallelujah, we're able to wait till high school to give them a phone, even though there was so much resistance, and nobody in the world in Southern California does that. We're like the rainbow unicorns.
I love that you were able to do that.
Oh my gosh, it's intense.
So important for their brain. I know we've already had those conversations with our kids. They know they're not going to get phones until they're 16.
Good. Yeah. Yep. You do it very early and you just let them know, and then you stay the course and you hold space for the conversations. But it is intense, at least here in Southern California. Literally, people look at you like you're crazy when you're kids in like 8th grade, and the coach is like, okay, everybody, I'll text you when you're coming back, and you're like, coach, remember? I mean, now my kids always had like a True or a Gab device, which was like just text and phone only. But still, it's just wild to me what's happening in our world, and it sure feels like I am able to see, like I almost can vision like our brain. I can see our brains changing. So the limiting of the phone time, it is becoming, I think, one of the biggest difficulties in marriages and parenting and all the things. So tell us your thoughts on this. How can we get a hold of this and retrain our brain to feel good in different ways, then I think we're getting those dopamine hits from these phones,
Yes,
right?
of
Like, tell us
course.
what's happening.
The fast acting dopamine hits. And we need to understand. And I said this to a parent recently working with them because they're like, my kid's addicted to the screen. And I said, no, the system is rigged. It is rigged for us to feel that we have to be on it, that we need to be on it. And then we as our fully formed adult brains, we also then need to start putting in systems in place, and we can do that, but it's also really hard. And so we are all going to struggle with this because of how the system is set up. Instagram designed to keep you on it, right? Pinterest, all of that, all the games, the Snapchat. Gosh, the Snapchat, actually, we won't go down the rabbit hole. I'm not on it, but I've just heard of like, wow, it feels like if you're not on it, you're going to miss out. But remembering, and I talk about this with my kids too, already at this stage, when we do the things face to face, we're a ski family, so we go skiing. When we go and do those moments, we've got this deep sense of connection. It's inside of us. It stays with us. It lasts longer. It boosts our mood. We go out for walks before, after dinner. We throw the football. Like, we do that. And that's this longer lasting feel good chemical in our brain. It's also the soul nurturing. Like, I'm pointing to my gut, right? Like, this is where we feel it. And so even being able to label that and talk about it, even with our partners, is so important. And then what we need to do is, how do we create systems inside our home that's going to help us limit that screen time? I want to highlight something here. If we have our phone, so I'm going to pick up my phone. I'm going to keep talking to you, Wendy. And, right now I'm going to tell you about how important it is that we put our phones away, and, the challenge with today. And like, over time though, my face is not even looking at you. And so I don't have feedback from you and what's happening in your world. And I need that. We have those mirror neurons that reflect each other back. Are we connected? Are we feeling close? Are we on the same page? But when my phone is open and you're trying to talk to me, it says that whatever is on my phone is more important than what you have to say. And like, let's just sink into that in terms of that being a daily existence in our relationship. In fact, I would argue that some people have even become numb to that feeling, and then we don't feel it anymore. So a really simple thing to do is you and your partner today saying, hey, you know what? So don't point to the you, right? Yeah. We, like that soft startup, we can use the Gottman's strategy there, soft startup. We're struggling with something, and I really want us to take a look at this. Can we take a moment to speak about it? I'm not going to blame you. I'm not going to say this is your fault, but we are stuck on our phones. Oh, everybody. We go out to dinners and we see people doing it, and I don't think that's really working for us. I miss us speaking, connecting, and being close. What would you think about finding a time during the day where we could put our phones away? And notice in there, I'm not saying you never, always, you must, you have to. I'm asking my partner to come on board and collaborate with me here. And let's find a way that's going to work for both of us. So if you come in saying, from now on, this day forward, no phones between 5 to 7, guess what? Your partner's autonomy feels threatened. And you know what they're going to do? What? No, that's ridiculous. Why would I do that? I have to be on my phone. What's wrong with you? Right? No, when we go in being collaborative, then they feel like they have a choice in there as well. And so going in soft startup, really important. We emphasizing connection, and then finding that way of how are we going to limit it together? Is it about taking the first 10 minutes of the day where you don't go on your phones and you connect together? That's really powerful. Ending your days off of screens, having a 10-minute check-in. Or maybe it's around dinner time. So between 5:30 to 7, put your phones in another room. Make it harder to access.
Oh, it's so good. Yeah. And I'm going to like listen to this again once it comes out, to just be able to help my kids understand too. Oh, so good. I mean, because my kids tell me often, like, Mom, what is the big deal? Like, why? What is the big deal? Like, because my little guy is 13, so he's obviously doesn't have a phone yet, and he also wants these apps, these social media apps. I don't think his TrueMe phone will even it won't let you, but he just desperately wants these apps. I think the one that he was asking me lately was like Discord, and then also like all these things. But anyways, it's intense as a parent to help them understand that like you called it, a longer lasting soul nurturing feeling. Because to them, the connection, like, because they've never known anything different for the most part. I mean, they're kids, but it's like they don't quite understand what the problem is when they think this is connection, right? Like they think if you're
Mm-hmm.
texting someone, it's like, what's the big deal if you're scrolling TikTok for an hour? Like, what's the big deal? That's connection. That's fun. That feels good in
Mm-hmm.
your body. And trying to describe to them, well, it's like a false feel good. It's
Mm-hmm.
like it is a feel good, but it's like you mentioned the skiing and the being like we just came off the mountain together. And my little girl who's 16 and she's my cactus kid. She's can be hard edge. She was so sweet and soft and connected with us when we got home on Monday night. And I was like, I noticed, I was like, wow, that was really cool because we were on the mountain for days together off of these devices. And I can just picture even just last night, Terry's been doing some extra work lately and, just having him be on his device at night, definitely I could feel the like disconnection. But in order to to express that, both to your spouse and your kids is an art and to do it in a way that will help them understand. And then I just love the that's so, and I miss
Mm-hmm.
the connection I feel when we're
Yeah.
together instead of the blame. Because I know my 16-year-old, now that she does have the phone, can get really defensive about it. And so just bringing in that soft startup is awesome.
I love the idea of in the moment processing. So I think what we tend to be really good at as parents is this like top down knowledge expert instead of the I'm going to
Yes.
be the guide beside you. So when you're on the ski hill being like, this is so cool. I'm beside you and I'm not thinking about anything in the world. There was this reel going around that's like, had a bad day, go skiing. Feeling down, go skiing. My husband are like, yes, just go skiing.
I
And
agree.
so, but it's this sense of instead of saying to our kids, get off your phone, get off your device, go do these experiences, process it with them. Well, hey, what was it like after skiing so many days? Hey, do you notice how sometimes after you're on your device, you feel a little like, jarred up in your body and feel a little irritated? Yeah, me too. I know I've been on my phone all night. I'm going to go for a walk. Do you want to come with me? And so we start modeling it to them.
Yeah.
And so that they can then be like, oh yeah, I feel that. So with my high sensitive guy, we talk about that of like noticing how's your body? Where's your body right now? Check in with yourself. Okay, we've just wrapped up being on a screen. How are you feeling? Do you think maybe we need to go like activate our bodies in some other way? And they can start to
Yeah.
learn that.
You know what I love that makes me think, Tracy is at because I can see my strong-willed one especially being like, I feel great. I feel great after an hour of TikTok. But if she
I
were
do
to get a
not.
little right, if she were to get a little snarky with me, if I can like sometimes if I'm finishing a text or something, I think I've heard Mary call this like snubbing or something, right? When you're like
Yeah.
someone's trying to be present with you and like you are on your phone. But
Oh, fubbing,
fubbing, thank you.
fubbing. Mm-hmm.
And I can think of some times when Stella, especially, and this is exactly what I'll do to Terry. Stella's like my mini mirror. So it's hilarious. I'll do this sometimes to Terry, but she'll go, hello, hello. Like, are you even here with me? And so I think in those moments, it would be a really good opportunity to be like, my bad. Like I thought I had to finish that text right now, but honestly, it can wait. Like, how did that feel in your body? Because I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure that didn't feel good. Just
Mm-hmm.
like trying to anchor, because when she is feeling the annoyance, or like Terry's my partner, he's like the most angelic dude on the planet. So I feel like he never gets annoyed. Whereas I'm the one who always gets annoyed. If he's on his device, I'll say to him, what are you doing? Who are you talking to? And it's like it would be good for me to, I'm like trying to just tap into our bodies. How are we feeling? So we
Yeah.
can remember that this affects our relationships. And when you're with somebody and you're not on devices, it feels really, really good. And
Mhm.
when you're with people and they are on their devices and you're trying to engage, it just feels there's just a disconnection. So that's
Yes.
the point. And like coming at it at all these different angles is, I think, really fun to get creative with it because
Mm.
it's important.
And our phones are here to stay. And so how
Yeah.
then do we utilize it? Can you watch the funny memes that you're sending each other together? Can you send it back
Mm,
and forth? Right? Like find the points of
yes.
connection so that,
That's a good idea.
let's think, what was like 15 years ago, you would only have the option to send a text, or 20 years ago, it was only a text.
Yeah.
It wasn't anything else on social media. Go back to sending the text. Hey, I thought about you. This one made me laugh so much. And, we can still do that. We can find the ways
True.
to connect us alongside our phones.
I love that. I love that. Okay. Number 3, prioritize regular dates. We're going to have some
Mm,
listeners that are like, ha ha ha, that's hilarious. I
yeah.
can't do that. I have no family.
Yes, of
My
course.
kids are crazy and won't stay with.
Right. I nudge people to do this, and most of my clients will come back and say, you know what? We were a little bit tired the next day, but because we felt so connected, that little bit of tired feeling the next day was totally worth the date that we had. And
Yes.
let's redefine what it means to date when you have children, because before kids, you could go on a whim. It didn't matter what was going on. You could leave when you wanted, come back when you want, sleep in, depending on what your job was. There was so much more flexibility and less demands on you. And now we do need to get more intentional. But here's the reality about something. When it comes to you scheduling your work meetings, like you and I, we put it in our calendar. We agreed ahead of time. How's your calendar? How's my calendar? Okay, we're going to meet at this time. And we both upheld that date. Otherwise, you and I both know with all that goes on in our lives, we will not be able to meet for this podcast episode. You're in my calendar. I prioritized it, and so did you. And we can do this with our partners. And that is just about allowing ourselves to use systems that we use in other places of our life. Nothing happens without it being planned. And I know when I even talk about planning and scheduling intimacy and sex, some people will come back and say, well, where's the spontaneity in that? There's no fun in that. And I said, hey, I did not say for 2 minutes you do X, and then for one more minute you do Y, and then you're going to do this for what, right? No, there's no fun in that. But when you say the third Wednesday of every month is our time to, the kids maybe have extra screen time that night so that we're not exhausted. And we go and we do our own thing. We make our own dinner. The kids have maybe had their own order in kind of fun food, whatever they're having in front of the TV. We close the door. We're in our room. We get to have fun, whatever that looks like, but play and be creative. And instead of getting stuck in we can't afford babysitters. Totally get that. We can't afford going out once a week. I also really get that. But get a card game, get a new game that you can learn, have the experiences together, because that's what's going to keep you feeling close.
It's so true. And there is often I remember, especially when the kids were little, there was intensity, there was planning. I remember when my little guy, who's always been like my one that struggles with a little anxiety, he had separation anxiety real bad. There was so many nights where he would chase us down the road as we were driving away, screaming, crying. And that was when his little cousin lived with us for 2 summers. So he knew her really well. But I remember that feeling of just being like, oh my gosh, that took so much effort. And then, like you said, it is so worth it, because whether you're in your bedroom with your door locked and just watching Seinfeld and having your dinner that you want and not feeling guilty that the kids are watching TV, or you're actually going out to a nice dinner or in a movie or whatever. But it's that connection point is just so huge. And that is one area that we did really prioritize all those years. And it's interesting because now that our kids are older, it almost feels like, we're not prioritizing date nights right now. So I want to get back into that. But it was really nice all those years. Because it did just keep us so connected.
My kids get mad at us, and I actually like it. I like that they get mad at us, because we're modeling that our relationship is important. And when we can tap into, what do you hope your children learn about what it means to be in a loving relationship? We don't tell them these things. We model it. We model the repair. We model what it means to make a mistake, get heated, and come back and say sorry. We model what it means to prioritize each other. So my little guy, same thing, used to cry at the window because we'd be pulling out of the driveway, or even if it was just me, myself, one of us, we always had a hard time leaving for us, period. And he would just cry, and it was the hardest thing to leave. Date nights were not happening that often that time. And then the other one would get mad at us. And those are uncomfortable feelings. And I know that we can work through discomfort. We can teach our kids that, yes, you do feel disappointed. I am going to disappoint you. That's my job as your parent, to disappoint you, because when you learn how to deal with that with me at home, then you're going to be able to do that out in the world. And when we're connected as parents, we feel better being able to parent you. So we've had those conversations with the kids. And what we did last night is we agreed that, so kids' bedtime is at 8 p.m. Last night we said, all right, guys, 7 p.m., we are all yours. But right now we finished dinner at 6:20. We're going to have our time right now here. So we're going to sit at the table. We're going to chat. We're going to connect. You guys can go play on your own. And then we'll meet up at 7. And they kind of resisted it a little bit. And they're like, oh, we don't like that. I'm like, yeah, I know, it's totally hard. And I gave them some ideas of what they could do. And then they resisted again. But then they got there. And that's okay. But we're modeling something really important to our kids. We have limits. We have needs, and it's okay to get them met.
Families, the holidays are right around the corner, and so is our biggest sale of the year here at Fresh Start Family. Starting on Wednesday, November 27th, our foundations course will be marked down by 80%. Yes, you heard me right, 80%, but only for a few days as we celebrate Small Business Saturday together and kick off the holiday season. Families on our email list will be the first to find out and sent the special coupon code, so if you're not on that yet, make sure you get added. We send out weekly podcast episode recaps, invites to our free events and workshops, and special promotion coupon codes like this one when we have a sale. So head to freshstartfamilyonline.com/email to get on our list so you can get your coupon code sent directly to your email inbox bright and early on Wednesday, November 27th. Amen. And just you mentioned it, of just becoming comfortable, or the way, I forget how you phrase it, with the uncomfortable, right? Like we are capable of moving through the uncomfortable, because I think of all the listeners that have the strong-willed kids who the babysitter is really tough, right? And you have to go through a few babysitters till you find the one that when you come home, they don't feel the need to tell you all the ways that your kid was like a pain in the ass. You're like, okay, we went through a few where we were like, you're fired, like when we come home, we just want to know, are they alive? Did you get them to sleep? Did you get them fed? And I can support you with creative ways if you need help to, like, if they pushed back on bedtime or something. But in general, like, I don't want to hear you complaining to me. But like strong-willed kids are notorious, right? For like the sitter being intense, to like find the right one who's going to really click. And thank God we did find those sitters over the years that we were just like, it's amazing how one sitter can like handle a strong-willed child really, really well, and another one can just be destroyed by them, right? And so that's the uncomfortableness of sometimes you have to go through that and say, okay, it's okay that this one didn't work out. We're going to keep trying, and we're going to ask another person and just maybe educate them a little bit more on what they can do when the kid pushes back on dinner or is being rough with their sibling or whatever. But it's like those uncomfortable moments that we are capable of getting through. And the more we become practiced in not feeling like our nervous system is like not feeling unsafe in those moments, but like, this is just an uncomfortable moment, and we're going to still pay the babysitter, and then we'll talk to her tomorrow about what she can do next time to feel more confident at bedtime. Like, we're okay. We're safe. Okay. Awesome. Date nights or regular dates. Okay. And I will say that for me, it has helped to have, and I'll save that for point number 5. Okay. Let's move on to share your dreams and passions. What do you want to riff about this one, Tracy? Because my gosh, this is amazing and so powerful and connecting. So
I think what we do in our relationships is we start to predict the other person, and we tell ourselves we know everything about them. And I like to remind people that on average, we have something like 40 to 50,000 thoughts a day. It's not possible to know every single part of your partner. And it's pretty magical when you can discover something that your partner's experiencing or thinking about or feeling that you didn't know. And that is a way of forming connection and closeness. And so when it comes to sharing our dreams and our passions, it is about continuing to turn towards each other and to say, I had this thought of, or one day when, being able to talk about the dreams one day of, do you want to travel? Where do you want to live? What does it look like to even be retired and the kids are not there. And I think what this does that I think we want to root ourselves in is developing this sense of we together, this we-ness. And if you're in the roommate stage, what can also feel, because it's hard, right? If your kids are 4 months and 2 years old, you're in a stage where it's going to feel like roommates because you are giving so much to your young kids. So if you're in that season, give yourself a lot of permission. But what is most important is that you can both sit on the couch and say, we're in this together. We both want to get out of this. We both trust that we're going to move through this together and come out on the other side where we get to put our intimacy back into the main scene again, where we get to find new ways to explore each other. And that, even in that season, is a way of sharing a dream and a passion together.
That's so beautiful. Yeah, because sometimes when you're out on date nights, it can be like, what are we going to talk about? Because you either talk about business or you talk about your kids.
Right.
But talking about like your dreams and visions or passions is like, you know, a little bit different brained and so beautiful. And I know for a lot of families who feel like they might struggle to be on the same page, we often will guide them to talk about what are their dreams for their children and their family legacy, because a lot of times it's similar. Like we think we're on such different pages, especially if like a spouse is like, no, we need to punish. That's the way you're going. And one's like, no, we're going to like, I'd like to do compassionate discipline. Like both parents want to raise kind, loving, compassionate, responsible children. Like we're on the same page with our dreams of like having kids who want to call us when they want to come home once they're adults. Like both of us want that. That's our dream, is like to one day have grandchildren and like have this tight knit relationship, like, right. But like sharing in realizing like, oh, we actually are on the same page. We might just be different in how we're going to, like, we might not understand how we're going to get there with the same how to, but we have the same or like similar dreams and passions. And it's just so energizing, right? When you can get out of the mundane, let's talk about work, let's talk about kids, but like, where are we going to be in 10 years? Where do we want to retire? I love that. Like,
so this was such a common thing that was showing up in my therapy room and also with my members in Be Connected. So what I did was I created 100 questions to deepen your connection. So if people are looking for something to bring to their next date night or while they're washing dishes beside their partner, I've got that on my website. It's drtracyd.com/connect. And it's a free guide, 100 questions. It's my favorite tool that I have. And it really stemmed from parents saying, yeah, we went on a date and we had nothing to talk about. And parents saying, I don't know where to start. We don't even know each other anymore. And one question, for example, Greg and I took it on our date night last year. We've taken it a few times, but this one stands out in the sense that we answered one question and it took 20 minutes to answer the one question. And we got to know more about each other. What was the one? It was, who would you choose to have dinner with, past, present, or future? Choose 3 people. And we could talk about different memories and what that was like and what you'd like to ask them at the table and how it would be different so they could see you today. So it just really deepened that sense of connection. It was fun.
Oh, I love it. I always say to that one, Jimmy Fallon would be at the top of my list. Okay, amazing. So we have one last point to cover before we wrap, and that is schedule intimate time.
Yes. I touched on it already. Yes.
You did.
Yeah. This is, again, if you don't put it in the calendar, do things really happen? And I know people want spontaneous. And also I know spontaneous doesn't work for everybody. Yeah. So we have to understand that if we don't prioritize something, it tends to go on the wayside. And I think the other thing too, why I like this so much is that intimacy is not, so people who are listening, test yourself. When Wendy said schedule intimate time, did you immediately think sex, as in intercourse and ending in orgasms? Okay. So then this is also the common mistake that we make, because intimacy doesn't need to be narrowly defined as ending in orgasms. And I specifically talk about this because I know for some people, if they're still not sleeping through the night, if they're nursing, if they've experienced mental health difficulties or a loss or a traumatic birth, sex and physical touch might be the furthest thing from what they need right now. So
Yeah.
remembering to redefine what intimacy looks like, and that could be first, the physical intimacy. It could be the emotional intimacy, experiential intimacy. What are the things you can do together? But if we were to narrowly define this then and go to more of the sex and physical connection, yeah,
Mhm.
we need to put it on the table. We need to be able to say, when are we going to make this work for both of us? And how can we then flex the things that we do that day? Maybe that day we don't do the dishes. Maybe we give the kids screen time and we lock ourselves in the room and tell the kids that we're doing laundry or something. So just
Yeah.
making that time is really important.
Yeah, it was just it's interesting to look at the definition of intimacy because yeah, it's like you think of like we have this narrow viewpoint, as you said, sexual intercourse ending in orgasm, right? It's like,
Mm-hmm.
well, like taking like a hot bath together could be really, or like
Shower
massages,
together,
right?
massage, yeah, or exploring each other's body. But as soon
Hmm.
as we say it always has to end in orgasm, where's the fun? Where's the play? And what couples are
Yes.
really good at doing is finding the rhythm that works. I can ask couples in my therapy room, tell me what it looks like when you're having sex. Like, walk me through what you do. Okay, well, we kiss, I say, you wanted tonight. And she's like, well, okay, I guess so. And so then we
Hmm.
kiss for 2 minutes, then we touch a little bit here, and then I do that, and she does this, and then we have intercourse, and then we're done. And you repeat the same thing over and over again. And
Yeah.
that doesn't become fun and playful. And that's what intimacy is about: exploration, pleasure, play, fun.
Mm, that's so like interesting how yeah, to get out of the rut, I would think you would just need to have some conversations of like, hey, let's schedule this in, like let's and not feel like that's a defeating thing. And then let's like switch it up and not just I'm feeling like from hearing this right now, let's figure out a way to not just make it about the end. Like I feel like, especially
Mm-hmm.
for women, I don't know, you're the expert here, but it feels like the pressure comes on because for like women, it's such more of an act to orgasm than men. And so it's like, okay, we got to do this. It's like, and then it's amazing. It ends up being amazing. But it's like, if you could take that pressure away and just say, hey, can we just play around with like, what if we just did massages this week and just see what happens? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Right. And so
That'd be
you're
interesting.
tapping into a little bit of anticipation. And so
Mhm.
when we massage and when we touch in ways that build anticipation, we feel more arousal, we feel more desire. We want to go into
Mm.
those things again. But if we're asking ourselves to go from 0 to 100, where we've just had to be the boundaried up person, putting kids to bed and then doing the dishes and then making sure the laundry's not in the bed, and then you want me to be this goddess right here, that
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily work, right? So we've got to find these other ways throughout the day as well. So intimacy, anticipation is not something that just happens in that window when you're ready to, but it's all
Mm.
constantly throughout, which is we go back to the rituals, we go back to the limiting phone time, right? Waking up and kissing your partner in the morning, give them a deep squeeze.
Mm.
You've started it already. You send them a text later on saying, gosh, that hug this morning was so good. I love smelling you. Then you have that date,
Yeah.
right, you share the thing. All of that are all of these pieces of intimacy that then lead to the yes, let's do this. I'm so excited to be here with you,
Yes.
right? And
Yes.
and we forget that. So I encourage all people to listen with your partner at the same time.
Oh my gosh, this is amazing. Yeah. And I will say that as our marriage has gone on, I think we're in 23 years now. It's like the scheduling for me, the morning is like Friday mornings. Let's do Friday mornings. And recently I did some financial healing program. And like now it's like we're starting to combine looking at our numbers and having like really awesome financial clarity and like loving on
I
our
love
numbers
that.
every week combined with like, hey, let's have some great hot sex. But it's like it feels good. It feels exciting. Like that's what we do on
Yes.
Fridays, but it's Friday morning. Because don't
Right.
ask me to look at my freaking numbers or have hot sex on Friday night. Or like
Right.
Saturday night. Like the daytime is my happy zone,
Of
and the
course. Well,
morning especially.
sure. And so hormonally, that also makes sense for many people. And when you give all your energy to everything else, I've worked out, I've done the
Yeah.
dishes, I meal planned, I did the work, and then I laundried, and then I kids, and I parented, and then you want me to have sex? There's nothing left. Right. So we have to ask ourselves, where do we put sex in the priority list? Oftentimes it's the last thing. What would it be like to shift some of those things up? When people were locked down and at home, of course, kids were at home with them. But that to me was go and play, lock yourself in the bedroom, and you're both home. If you work from home, take your lunch break, do something fun and play. Don't leave it until the end of the day, because most people don't want to. But that really does require us to kind of enter into conversations with our partners, which we know people have sex, but rarely do people talk about sex. It requires us to have these conversations outside of the bedroom to talk about, what do I like? How do I want to be initiated? What feels good? What do I not like? It's all part of the picture.
So good. I will say I love having teenagers. When you do parenting this way, it's like the best. Like, it's teenagers are so fun, except for you, like when their kids are little, you can like sneak away and like do what you want in the bedroom. When they're teenagers, you're like, no, we cannot, because it's like, we always joke that they would be like horrified. It'd be like scarring if you heard your parents. But
yes, you need to have a lock on your door. You need to make sure they've got their headphones on, all those things, right?
Yes, this at this stage, they need to be at freaking school. So, but oh my gosh, Dr. Tracy, what an honor to spend this last hour with you. Thank you for taking time out of your very busy schedule to be with us and to bless our community with all of this inspiring information and wisdom when it comes to reclaiming our romance and strengthening our partnership and our parenting. So let listeners know where they can come find you and learn more about all you have to offer and all that good stuff.
Thank you, Wendy. And thank you to everyone who joined us today and clicked play. I know our time is our most valuable commodity, so giving time is so important to me. So come say hello to me on Instagram. That's my main hangout place. Dr. Tracy D is my social handle. All of my resources are there as well. You can scroll through my reels, my link in bio, or head over to my website, drtracyd.com. My podcast is called I'm Not Your Shrink. My book is I Didn't Sign Up for This. I guarantee you and your husband will learn something in there. Wendy, I am blown away by the number of men who have sent me emails and messages saying, I needed your book. I did not anticipate as many men. And it's just been amazing because the cover is white with a gray couch on it. So it's inviting. And the stories are of men as well who were in my office struggling with the very real struggles. And so anyways, I encourage anyone to grab that book, but do say hello to me. It's the most meaningful thing to me, being social on Instagram.
Oh, I love it. And I love that you mentioned that the men really love your work too, because we have 93% women who listen to our show, 7% men. But in our communities, we're always encouraging our students to encourage their husbands to listen and read along. And so many are completely responsive and willing. So that's wonderful to hear that so many loved it. So you hear that, wives, go get your hubs, go get the book for the family, and then share the book or get two copies. So amazing. Well, thank you again for being here, Tracy. We just appreciate and honor the work that you're doing in the world. And it's just been a delight to chat.
Thank you so much, Wendy.
Hooray! You made it to the end of a Fresh Start Family Show episode. Thank you so much for being here. If you have a quick second, make sure you hit subscribe to our show so you can be updated when our new episodes drop. I will see you back soon for the next episode. All right, that's a wrap. You made it to the end of a value-packed Fresh Start Family Show episode. I hope you are feeling empowered and motivated and inspired. Now is a great time to head to freshstartfamilyonline.com/firm and kind to grab the Firm and Kind Parenting Blueprint, our $27 mini course that will teach you our easy to implement yet magical in terms of results 4-step process to setting strong limits and sticking to them with consistency. Enjoy, and I'll see you in the next episode.